Hey guys, the Pokémon Company International and Nintendo recently invited me to TPCI's headquarters in order to test out the latest installment of the Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, the Hidden Treasure of Area Zero DLC. This is the Indigo Disk, and we were given a small bit of time in the Terrarium in order to get a feel of what the DLC adds. So here are my thoughts on the upcoming DLC, so be sure to sit back and relax and just learn about the wonders of a Terrarium. It has been over a year since Pokémon Scarlet and Violet launched, and since the launch we've had dozens of events, Terra Raid battle events and so much to keep us playing in the region of Paldea, and this continued with the release of the Teal Mask back in September, and we're almost at the conclusion, with the release of the Indigo Disk on December 14th, 2023. We were given some hands-on time with this expansion, set shortly after arriving in the Blueberry Academy, and then a second play focusing solely on the battle against one of the Blueberry Academy's Elite Four members. And we were let loose in the school to do whatever we wished, so we began with the exploration of the Terrarium and a look at what's new in this DLC pack, and how it feels, and what I saw, it surprised me a bit. We started off entering the Terrarium in the Blueberry Academy with Lacey and Cyrano, where she explains what the Terrarium is, how it's an underwater dome with projections of the passage of time and the sky through the dome, and how there's a mysterious globe at the top which allows for terrestrialization, but Cyrano can't seem to remember what it is made out of, which is a nice tantalizing notion at later parts of the story. Lacey then explained how the Terrarium has got 4 different habitats: the polar biome, the savanna biome, the coastal biome, and the canyon biome. These are the 4 quadrants of the area and house a variety of Pokemon, different in each area as you expect. In the coastal one, you'd find a lot of water Pokemon and Pokemon such as Alolan Exeggutor on the beach, whilst the polar biome is filled with ice-type Pokemon including Alolan Sandshrew and Beartick. The savanna had ones like the Kanto form of Tauros, Doduo, and the canyon biome had ones like Alolan Geodude, Tyrogue, and so forth. This added a lot of variety to the Pokemon that you saw throughout the area. Yep, that's right, despite the Blueberry Academy being in the Unova region, there's a lot of regional forms dotted throughout the Terrarium. This made for a nice feeling of difference compared to the rest of the game, as it was nice to see these regional variants out in the wild, and it helped give a feeling that the Terrarium is in essence akin to the Safari Zone, where many wild Pokemon have been brought in from other areas. I did see both a Cantonian and an Alolan Exeggutor in the wild, which got me wondering about how an Execute would evolve if I evolved it in the Terrarium. I found an Execute, but I was unfortunately unable to find a Leaf Stone in that time, so that will be a question for launch. There are, of course, a load of Pokemon returning throughout the Terrarium, but I don't think I saw a single Paldean Pokemon amongst them in the wild. However, we did see Pokemon including Oricorio per our style, for one Oricorio not found in the wild in Scarlet and Violet yet, and with different dealing and source buck could be found in each biome, which was a very nice touch. We were also told that the first partner Pokemon would indeed be found in the wild throughout the Terrarium, but within my gameplay I was unable to see any of them, so they're either rare or there's something else to get them. The Terrarium map in all appeared to be much larger than Kitakami, but not as big as Paldea, so there's a lot to explore, but of course with it being an artificial environment under the water, it's not like Paldea where you'll have towns and villages to explore. Instead, you'll find a lot of rest spots with various students throughout the area, as well as a big central location in the middle of the Terrarium where you'll typically interact with the story, heal your Pokemon, start the Union Circle, or access TM creation. However, this doesn't mean there isn't a lot to explore in the areas. I kept getting lost and distracted just looking for all the various Pokemon in it. Much of what you'd expect from Pokémon Scarlet Violet is the same in the Terrarium. You've got the passage of time, you've got Terra Raid battle crystals throughout the area, as well as mass outbreaks happening. There are large amounts of Pokemon and items everywhere, and the items seem to be a bit more unusual, because in addition to the standard berries, evolution items, EXP candy, and even sweets to evolve Milcery, you'll find Terra Shards. Now what surprised me about this is that the number of Terra Shards you get from picking up is unusual. When I picked up a Rock Terra Shard, it was actually 18 Rock Terra Shards, which will be very useful in further reducing the grind that is necessary to change your Pokemon's Terra type back in Paldea, which is great for competitive play. But of course, finding Pokemon isn't all there is to the Terrarium. Throughout the area, you'll find students of the Blueberry Academy and they will want to battle you. The Blueberry Academy itself has a curriculum focused primarily around Pokemon battles, and so the students here are very eager to battle you. As this DLC can only be accessed if you've completed The Way Home and the Teal Mask, these trainers are going to be high leveled. You'll find trainers from level 60 throughout, and to top it off, every single trainer battle I found in the Terrarium is a double battle, which is a marked change from pretty much every main series Pokemon game to date where they're primarily single battles. And to top it off, like the Kitakami Ogre clan of the Teal Mask, you'll find some real tough trainers dotted around the Terrarium. While I was exploring off the beaten path, I found one with a team in the level 70s that actually provided a challenge for the Pokemon that I had. They were using some classic double battle strategies and had hold items on their Pokemon, such as a Toxic Orb Guts Zangoose, double Intimidate strategies, a Grassy Seed Whimsicott with grassy terrain, and so much more. This is where the challenge will start to come in, as with double battles, some of the more complex strategies behind Pokemon will come out, and these trainers are going to use them against you. Even if your teams are level 80 or above, you may find these battles trickier than you would think for a standard playthrough of a Pokemon game. Now this compounded with the second part of the preview, where we got to face off against one of the Blueberry Elite Four, Amoris. This started off with a trial, much like the gyms had trials to complete on Paldea, and this was the one shown in the trailers where you could properly fly on Koraidon and Miraidon. This task basically had you to get to the end whilst flying through various rings held together by Magnemite within the time allotted. This lulled me into a false sense of security when it wasn't that tricky, but the battle itself was a completely different matter. We were told going in that a different save was made for this, as the team of level 80 Pokemon we had for the first part of the preview just couldn't handle facing off against Amoris, so instead we had a new team of level 88 Pokemon with competitive movesets and hold items. Yet despite this, we were all told to expect to lose the battle. And going in, I could see why. Straight off the bat, Amoris went in with some classic and brutal double battle strategies, and every Pokemon on her team felt like it had a means to counter any possible weakness. Luckily, I've got experience in the VGC and in Pokemon in general, obviously, so I managed to navigate some strategies from the outset and defeated Amoris without using any revives or potions. However, it did stun me in how tough it was. It reminded me more of what you would see towards the later levels of the Battle Tower facility, rather than what you'd get playing through the main story or even post-game of past main series Pokemon games. Obviously, if you have a team of level 100 Pokemon, you'll obviously have more of an advantage and it'll be less difficult, but such level increases mean a lot less here in comparison with the Teal Mask in earlier parts of the game. And the Blueberry Elite Four can seemingly be done in any order, so it's likely they'll all be able to be such a challenge, and it makes me very curious how the later content in the Indigo Disk will go in terms of difficulty. I did also get a look at some of the technical machines which are being introduced in the Indigo Disk. There's a mix of returning moves as TM such as Expanding Force, Triple Axial, Skitter Smack, Meteor Beam, Breaking Swipe, Scorching Sands, Curse, Coaching, Electro Web and more, as well as some new moves including the World's Reveals of Upper Hand and Psychic Noise, as well as some new moves like Supercharged Cell and Hard Press, which is the steel move which does more damage the higher the target's hit points. These competitive moves play on the battle focus that the Blueberry Academy has and really makes me intrigued to see where it will take the competitive strategies over the next year or so. As we know from the Teal Mask, the Blueberry Academy is set in the Unova region, and there's inspiration for it everywhere. The music, primarily, has some elements from the region throughout, such as the Wild Pokemon theme having some remixed elements. It put a big smile on my face when I heard it for the first time, and there are other inspirations from Unova and other Pokemon games throughout the Terrarium. Of course, I would be remiss not to address one of the big elements that work against Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, the performance. Obviously this was a pre-launch build, so subject to change, but the performance did seem okay. It was not worse than the game has been up to this point, but it may even have felt smoother, but it was not without its flaws or slowdowns. Basically, this is Pokémon Scarlet and Violet still, so don't go in expecting a massive overhaul. Obviously, this is just a small snapshot of the Indigo Disk in this preview, and I couldn't dive into the full elements of the DLC, nor into the Area Zero endgame that they have been teasing with Terrapagos and the other Paradox Pokemon. But from what I've seen so far, the Indigo Disk is shaping up to be one of the biggest expansions Pokemon has seen, and is definitely one of the toughest challenges Pokemon has had outside of the Battle Frontiers, Battle Towers, and Eternal Battle Reverie. What I played put a smile on my face, and I loved exploring the various parts of the Terrarium, and the notion of the Blueberry Elite Four being amongst the strongest trainers that have ever existed in Pokemon games to date is wild. There's so much more that can't be shared right now, but this truly feels like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet's end game, and it feels like it's going to be a very challenging thing, which is what I have been looking forward to for so long with Pokemon games, and I'm looking forward to diving in more next month. I'd just like to thank Pokemon and Nintendo for inviting me to give the Indigo Disk an early play. And I'd like to thank you all very much for watching the preview. Let me know what your thoughts are on the Indigo Disk and whether you're going to be picking it up and if you're looking forward to the challenge. And be sure to subscribe to the Cerebi YouTube channel for lots of great coming video content. And until next time, see ya!